Okay, I think we're good. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sergeant Carla Havert with the Denver Police Department. I will be your MC for this evening's or this afternoon's program. We're coming to you via Zoom, so we're trying to figure this thing out. So have some patience with us as we invite and get everyone into the Zoom chat. Also, we're coming to you from the hospitality of the Blair Caldwell African American Research Library, the wonderful folks here. There's less than 10 of us here. We are socially distancing. And when we are not speaking up here, we are wearing our masks. So just want to put that out there. This event will be recorded and will be on the Denver Museum website if you are not able to join us now. So with that, welcome to our Black History program. No. It's much more than a Black History program. Folks, this is an awakening. Let me tell you, when I woke up this morning and I went to press my shirt so I could look presentable for this event, I had out my iron and my ironing board. I didn't think about Sarah Boone, a slave who was credited with creating the standing ironing board. I didn't think about her. And when I locked up my house and I activated a home alarm system with all my fancy cameras and monitors on it, I didn't think about Mary Van Bryn Brown, who back in 1966, along with her husband, created our home security system involving cameras and monitors. I didn't think about them. And as I traveled along to get to headquarters along the streets of Denver, encountering many, many traffic lights, I didn't think about Garrett Morgan, the Black man credited with creating the 3-light traffic with the invention of the yellow light signal. I didn't think about Garrett Morgan. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that back in 1996, when I sat in Kerrigan Hall with 3,200 other men and women, most of whom were minorities, who said that I want to become a police officer for the city and county of Denver, I did not know it was because of the efforts of these courageous women that I, a Black woman, was allowed to do so. So that's why we're here today. This is much more than a program. This is an awakening. So with that, I would like to welcome you to the 2021 Denver Police African American Trailblazer Award ceremony presented by the Denver Police Museum. Today, our honorees are these pillars of strength, these fearless women who were responsible for the Hogue Decree, who said that I too can do this job. I too should do this job. Our honorees today are the Miss Rae Beth McCall-Hunn, Miss Laura Tinnin-Whitney, and Miss Carole C. Hogue. Those are our honorees for today, and we're glad to have you here. Now, before we can certainly go forward with any kind of program like this, we have to make sure that we're cloaked in prayer and protection. And for that, I would like to invite Police Chaplain Mumbo De Leon for a prayer. Chaplain.
Thank you so much. It is my absolute privilege to be here with you, and on behalf of all the chaplains of the Denver Police, I want to congratulate you and thank you for the hard work that you have done throughout your lives. And I am honored to be here. So let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather in the spirit of the law enforcement profession and its mission, to protect and to serve. We thank you for the opportunity to acknowledge and recognize the achievements and contributions that these police professionals have made to this community. It has been said that there are two opposing forces in this world, order and chaos. We thank you for the presence of these professionals when there is the need to restore order to the inevitable chaos that has a constant presence in this imperfect world. We also give thanks for your blessings upon this police department, for its leaders, and most of all, for its spirit. It is the spirit of this organization that gives its strength, its professionalism, and its purpose. Amen.
Right. Thank you, Chaplain. I feel that we're blessed and highly favored because of those words by Chaplain DeLeon. Thank you so very much. And although we're coming to you folks via this platform, I know that we have a slew of special guests. First of all, let me tell you something. These great folks here at the Blair Caldwell African American Research Library, they have just embraced the Denver Police Department and the Denver Police Museum. I'll tell you, these museum folks are a special breed. They're a different kind of folks here. And these women and men here, they understand what it means to highlight the service of everyone from all histories, no matter how good and bad. So we thank them for allowing us to be a part of their quest to ensure that history is known to all. So thank you to Blair Caldwell and the wonderful folks here, Dr. Terry Nelson, and the wonderful men and women here. And with that, folks, we're here because of the efforts of the Denver Police Museum and Mr. Michael Hess. I know he doesn't want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This man is special as well. In our arrogance, he will not allow us to not acknowledge the history, the service of those before us, so that we can ensure that mistakes of the past are not repeated. Thank you to the Denver Police Museum, their staff, Linda, Paul, Pat, all of the wonderful men and women over there. Thank you so very much, April, all the ladies over there. Really appreciate your efforts. We have some new friends on board, our new friends at the FBI. Although they're part of the community engagement unit, they're still the FBI. So watch what you say. You got to see what's going on with them. I know that we have City Council on board. Thank you, City Council, thank you, City Council, for being the buoy that helps sustain the city in its efforts to make sure that we are a world-class city. The Denver Police Department, our leadership team, and our civilian support staff, of which we rely on daily. Thank you so very much for all of your efforts. The Denver Police, Black police officers organizations and other employee organizations are on board this evening because they understand how honoring the sacrifice of their membership is so very important. Thank you so very much. The various community groups who partner with us and also hold us accountable for what we say and what we're supposed to do, they're on board today. Thank you so very much. And I can tell you, we have some serious girl power today on this event. I've been reached out to by many women organizations who are so happy that we are honoring these courageous women today. Thank you. Too many to acknowledge, but thank you so very much for the support and the fellowship. And lastly, our city leadership and our city organizations. I tell you, we are intimately involved in different facets of this city like no other. And I think it highlights our commitment to ensure that Denver is the best city possible from every sidewalk, penthouse, every vantage point, every lens. So we really appreciate the support of all our city agencies and city support staff. And with that, I can move right into our first speaker. Let me tell you something, folks. I did have something written to say, but I'm not going to go by that. I'm just going to say what I feel. When I look at what today means and where we are today in the world, I remember last year this time, and we didn't know what was going on in the world. The world was changing. We were faced with an invisible enemy, an invisible thing. And although we didn't get a lot of information, there was a lot of things unknown. I remember this man giving a speech and he said that we were going to be all right. And he said that we were going to be all right and we're going to get through it together. And we have. And that's what we have to do. I tell you, facing this unprecedented pandemic that we're in, this man put processes in place to ensure that the citizens of Denver were as safe as we possibly could be. Even though we didn't know exactly what it is, we have a name for it now, COVID-19. He made the difficult but courageous decisions to shut down businesses, city agencies, schools, organizations, in an effort to ensure that we survive, so that we can thrive, so that we can overcome. And then, once we figured out what it was, he ensured that we got our part. He said, I need to make sure that Denver is okay. So he pushed to make sure we had enough testing products, enough vaccines. And then he put together a group of experts, health experts, and said, I want to make sure that we have an equitable plan to ensure that these products that can save lives get to people who are marginalized, who are ignored, who are oftentimes left behind. I want to make sure that happened, and he has. And because of that, Denver, we are okay. Now, we're not without any losses. We've certainly had some losses. Losses of businesses, losses of jobs, livelihoods, and unfortunately lives. We're not so bad in Denver, but across the nation, and we're sorry for that. But no doubtably, we are in a better place because of the leadership of this man. Denver remains a vibrant and resilient city because of the efforts of this man. Nobody's perfect. We still have somewhere to go. But I tell you what, we're in a good place. And I'm thankful for that. So with that, I would like to introduce the mayor of our great city, of our world-class city still, the Honorable Michael B. Hancock. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, they had me muted. But I am really excited to be here, and I want to thank my good friend, Sergeant Havard, for that nice, very kind introduction and for emceeing tonight. And I want to thank, of course, that venerable institution in our city, Blair Caldwell, and the Denver Police Museum for continuing to shine a light on those who are bringing down barriers, especially in the public safety space. I want to thank everyone who's taken part in tonight's event to recognize, to acknowledge, to celebrate the honorees, trailblazers who brought down one of the glass ceilings of the Denver Police Department. You know, honoring those who have broken down barriers like this is important because if you want inclusivity, if you want equity in a profession, people have to be able to see themselves in that profession. And that only happens when they're not barred from it. For public safety, and what that means for people and their families personally is especially important because seeing a public safety service that reflects the community it serves is how we build a better police community relationship and trust between them, which we all agree is so important. This is especially true after the conversations and call for social justice we've been a part of over the past year. 3 history makers being recognized tonight who didn't let anything get in their way because they wanted to serve their community and their city. No action is more worthy of recognition. And I so wish we could be, at least I could be there in person with you tonight so I could learn more about your journey while on the department. But we owe you so much in terms of our gratitude to say thank you for what you've done, for the sacrifices that you've made. And I certainly hope that we can do that soon. But tonight we celebrate the past. And we let it guide how we can shape the future in a better way. And so on behalf of the city, I want to congratulate each and every one of you. I want to thank you for your sacrifices. And I look at Sergeant Havard, who no doubt in my mind one day will be leading a department like the city of Denver, if not the city of Denver. I think about the shoulders that she stands on. I think about the shoulders that I stand on. They include yours because you've made such a sacrifice for all of us. So thank you to the foundation. Thank you to the museum. And thank you to the police department, but more importantly, thank you to all of you for the difference you've made in the life of this great city. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really appreciate those words. And folks, just like you have a leader in place, there's different tiers to leadership, and you certainly have to have a like-minded person that's in charge of a very large portion of actually your city and your goals, and a person who's in line with the next level of policing in this new century. And I can tell you that Mayor Hancock and the citizens of Denver, we have the right police chief in place. This man is homegrown. He loves this department. He loves this city. He's the right man in place to start the process of changing our culture. That's our problem. Changing our culture. I'm talking about putting processes in place to ensure that we're compliant with the changing rules and laws that apply to us. Putting processes in place to make sure that we are upholding the high standards that the community expects from us. I'm telling you, folks, we have the right man in place. This is the right man for the department. And I can tell you what, this is the right man for this city. Our next speaker, Denver Police Chief Paul Pazin.
Carla, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Mayor, thanks for acknowledging our trailblazers that have made this a better department and a better city. John White said it best just yesterday. Carla's never met a microphone that she doesn't love. So, but you can see exactly why, as a baby sergeant, when I met Carla some 20 years ago, that I saw the value that Carla brings to this department. And when I was a baby lieutenant, I took Carla with me to District 1. And a commander in District 1, Carla was by my side. And when I was fortunate enough to hold this role, guess who came to headquarters with us? And that's Sergeant Carla Havard, who really exemplifies what it means to be a Denver police officer, what it means to provide service to others, to our community above self. So thank you, Carla. Thank you to the museum for honoring these three trailblazers, these three leaders that have had a hand in my appointment to the police department in the first place. So being a Latino growing up in Northwest Denver to a single mom, I know that the painful work that these three leaders did contributed to me being hired under then manager of safety, Fidel Butch Montoya, and Mayor Wellington Webb. So these trailblazers, I stand on the shoulders of these giants that have helped our department and our city. I'm also reminded of when I first met Laura back in 1996, baby police officer, 1 year on the job, and got to be inspired with her knowledge as we went through a program together, as well as seeing firsthand. She didn't even know who I was there, but I got to learn a lot from her back then of what it meant to care for a community, what it meant to help our community. And those are carried on with legacy as we move forward. Rae Beth and I met a couple of years ago, great conversation. She got to share with me all of the great things that she did for our department and all the great things that she continues to do. So these are moments that I will carry with that help us, and we cannot, none of us can forget the very difficult work that these three women, these trailblazers, these leaders have done, not because it was easy, but because it was the right thing to do. And I am so honored that we now can acknowledge areas that needed improvement and areas that have been improved and will continue to get better because of the great work that these trailblazers have done for this department and this city. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you so very much, Chief Payson. We are definitely on your side as you take this police department and this system of policing into an era of reconciliation and of philosophical change. Thank you so very much. Now we would have the reading of the proclamation by Officer Latricia Gus, representing the Black Police Officers Organization. Officer Gus.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm very honored and blessed to be here to be a part of this amazing opportunity. So thank you so much. Whereas the Denver Police Department has historically had Black police officers serving since the 1870s. The first full-time Black officer was hired in 1881 after being elected to office by the citizens and city council, followed shortly thereafter by a second Black officer on the relatively small department of the period. More Black officers served throughout the decades and well into the 1930s. And whereas those first officers were male, as were the traditional ranks of policing up until the mid-20th century, when more women began to serve on the Denver Police Department. In the late 1960s, women across the nation were joining the ranks of police officers across the country. But the recruitment and hiring of minority officers in Denver lagged behind the national average. And whereas in 1972, Carole C. Hogue was a primary plaintiff, joined by two other courageous women who filed a lawsuit against the City and County of Denver, Denver Civil Service Commission, and Denver Police Department for discriminatory hiring practices. The city agreed to implement changes, and that settlement is still known today as the Hogue Decree. The city of Denver agreed there would be an effort to hire a ratio of 1 female for every 4 male officers, and for the makeup of the department to reflect 20% minority officers in future hirings. The first 3 Black female officers hired were Carole Hogue, June 6, 1972, Rae Beth McCall, July 2nd, 1973, and Laura M. Tinnin, February 1st, 1974. This decision mandated a study be completed to evaluate women's roles and performance in the Denver Police Department. That study was completed in 1977, showing women were just as effective overall as men in the service of the department. And whereas these 3 pioneering Black women were involved in the City of Denver's 1988 agreement to include 45% Black officers in the first Academy class of 1989, and to make a good faith effort in recruiting subsequent Academy classes to reflect the demographics of the city. And whereas the Hogue Decree is still in effect today, and while there is still work to be done, female officers are 0.5% of the Denver Police Department. And the department continues to focus on encouraging women in leadership roles. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Council of the City and County of Denver, Section 1, that the Council of the City and County of Denver hereby recognizes and honors 3 trailblazing women for their efforts in the pursuit of equality in the early 1970s and their service to citizens of Denver. And Section 2, that the clerk of the city and county of Denver shall affix the seal of the city and county of Denver to this proclamation, and that copies be transmitted to Carole C. Hogue, Rae Beth McCall, and Laura M. Tinnin. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Gus, for that. I tell you that I am so proud just hearing that proclamation. And certainly we would like to thank Councilman Herndon, Council District 8, for sponsoring that proclamation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the presentation of the state flags and the badges. Chief Hazen, I think we're just going to do the Vanna White by this, I believe. So these flags were recently flown over the Colorado State Capitol at the request of the City of Denver, the Denver Police Department, and the Denver Police Museum to honor the courage and service of Detective Rae Beth McCall-Hunn, Officer Carole C. Hogue, and Sergeant Laura Tinnin-Whitney, to the citizens of the City and County of Denver, and to the future female officers, of which I am one, and I'm thankful of the department. I think the badges too. Just sit on. I think just those right now, yes. No. I tell you folks, we want a hug. We want a hug right now. We want to hug. Folks, let me tell you, last year I received a call out the blue. I remember it was soon after this very same event in which we honored, a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Tracy Cassie. By the way, I'm still trying to change my last name, just so you know. And I received a call, and on the other line, this lady said, "What about me?" To which I said, "I'm sorry, I do not know you." That person was Rae Beth McCall. She went on to tell me a story of my history that I'm almost embarrassed to say that I did not know. But I was happy that I was given an opportunity to hear it. And that history was about the challenges and the fellowship and the friendship and the struggles that these three ladies endured in their effort to ensure that someone like me, who they didn't even know, and many others, were allowed to serve in this honorable field that I've had the pleasure of serving in for the last 22 years. And I'm so very thankful that you called me out on it. I'm embarrassed, but I'm thankful that you called me out on it. Folks, unfortunately, Ms. Carole C. Hogue couldn't be with us today. It is our understanding that she lost her husband recently. We're so sorry about that, but we certainly thank her for her service and for the service of her family as well. So thank you to the Hogue Wilkinson family and for everything that she did to spearhead this effort to get to a different place in our society, to overcome an obstacle that actually was man-made, that shouldn't have been there from the beginning. And that is the idea that we are so different from each other that we can't get along, or we shouldn't be together. And these ladies spearheaded that. And thank you to Ms. Carole C. Hogue, the namesake of the Hogue Decree, and for all of her efforts. So this began back in 1971. Carole Hogue, who has a master's, applied for the Denver Police Department a couple of times, apparently. and was overlooked in her mind. She felt that she was qualified. She certainly thought that she had the qualifications, and she certainly knew that she had the passion for it, but she was overlooked. So she started reaching out to try to see if there were other like-minded people who perhaps wanted to join her in this, what they didn't even know was going to be a historic event. And so this young lady back at the time was working at the restaurant. And I believe a friend of hers that we may know as retired Division Chief Armedia Gordon said, hey, do you want to be a policewoman? That's what they were called back then, folks. A policewoman for the Denver Police Department. And I can tell you that our first speaker, this runs through her blood. If there is something that is unfair, if there's something that needs to be challenged, needs to be fixed, needs to be changed, she is out there fighting the good fight to make sure that it happens. She's an activist through and through. And she said she thought that everyone was, because it came so naturally to her. So when her dear friend, Miss Armedia Gordon, said, hey, do you want to be a policewoman, even though you're working at, what restaurant was it?
The library restaurant.
The library restaurant. Now, seeing that I'm only 27 years old, I don't remember what that was back then, but I'm sorry, I thought I heard some laughter somewhere. Anyway, let me continue on, because that wasn't a joke. No, while she was working and doing all right for being a waitress at that restaurant, she said, you know what? I think so. I think I will join you in that. And that began a friendship and a fellowship between these three women, and actually started a legacy of which many minority women who've had the pleasure of serving on this force have long since been thankful for. So our first speaker, the first African-American female undercover detective for the Denver Police Department, Detective Rae Beth McCall-Hunn. Rae Beth.
Thank you, Carla. It's truly an honor to be here to speak about joining the police department. I don't want to get choked up, and I don't want to get messed up and lost along the way. I didn't write a speech. I just speak from my heart. When Meta Gordon called me about applying to be a police officer, I told her, no, I didn't want to be a cop. And then I said, yeah, because they're not going to hire any women anyway, and especially any Black women. And I knew that because I was born and raised here in Denver, and I had experienced racism here in Denver most of my life. I had been active in politics most of my life because my parents were active in politics. And when I grew up, not far from where we are now, all Black people were active in politics here. We couldn't even live east of York Street, so we knew everybody. So when it was election time, we were out passing out sample ballots and doing what we were supposed to do. We went to vote. So as I grew older, I helped desegregate the Denver public schools. I marched, I picketed. I worked with Wilma and Webb, starting a group called COGO, Committee on Greater Opportunity for Black people in Denver. So when this came along, and I told Nita, yeah, I'll do it, because it's just a lawsuit, because I know they're not going to hire any Black women. Sure enough, go down to take the test. Now, Mita, who was, you all call her our media, she's my friend. She's Mita to me. She didn't go and apply. I did. So went down to take the test. And when the test was over, I come out in the vestibule, and Carole and Laura were standing there calling me, telling me, come here, come here. Didn't know them, had never seen them. They didn't grow up in Denver. And if they did, they were a lot younger than I was. So I went over to talk to them, and Carole said, they're not hiring any police women. They're not hiring any Black police women if they hire them. And my attorney wants me to bring as many women, Black women, to meet with him so we can file a lawsuit. I said, I'm in. Laura had already told her she was in, and we waited for a few other women to come out. And one girl came out, I knew who she was, and she told us, oh no, I'm gonna get hired. Well, she didn't get hired. So the lawsuit was settled, and I came on the year after Carole, and it was different. I was the only female of 43 in my academy class. I was stunned by what I went through. The racism that I experienced from the other cadets in my class, the racism that I experienced from my training officers was not anything I expected. And there were times that I thought, screw this, I'm leaving. And then I thought again, I can't leave. I've gone too far to turn back. And there's women behind me, Black women behind me that will want this job. So I pressed on. I was assigned to District 2. No, not District 2, District 1. Age, I forget. I was assigned to District 1 and had a training officer for a year. And there were some good officers that trained me and worked with me well. There were other officers that didn't want to work with me. One in particular left me sitting in the car in downtown Denver because that was part of District 1. And at that time, we pulled the radios out of the car. There was one radio. Pulled the radio out of the car and left me in the car for about 2 hours. And the officers driving around the beat reported him to their sergeant, and their sergeant called our sergeant. And when he came out, we headed back to District 1 where he was chewed out, but nothing ever happened. So that went on. I got in a fight. The girl had a gun. My training officer was with me. And after that fight, Captain C.J. Kennedy came over to District 1 and wanted me to work undercover. And I thought, yeah, because trust me, those of you that are watching, being a police officer is not what you see on TV. For the most part, it's boring. You drive around a car 8 hours all day and do nothing. So this was an opportunity to get out of the car and maybe see something different and do something different. So I said, yeah. So I went, did the undercover assignment, went back to District 1, continued working District 1, got transferred to traffic, where Laura and I became partners. That was fun. We laughed a lot, but we got the work done. Our numbers in tickets were high because they always pushed, give out those tickets because the city needed the money. So we did our job, we had a good time. And then Kennedy called me several more times to come and work undercover. And about the third time he called me, I said, I'm not coming. You're not gonna have me work undercover, buying drugs, doing this and that, and then send me back in a police car in a uniform. Not me. I'm not the one. If you want me to work undercover, I'll work undercover, but you're not gonna play this ball back and forth with me because I had 2 children. You know, I had to think about me. So he pulled me up to Vice and Narcotics, and I worked Vice and Narcotics for 3 years. I became a detective under his watch, and it was fun. Something must be wrong with me. If working undercover is fun, something is wrong with me, because there were some dangerous times, and most of the equipment for Denver Police Department didn't work well. So it was always iffy for me, but I still had fun. I traveled with the FBI, I traveled with the DEA, and that was fun. But I experienced racism every time I was pulled out on a special assignment and came back, because the guys in my department was upset that a Black woman was traveling with the FBI. I traveled down to Mexico to buy drugs with DEA. They were pissed. I'd come off of one assignment and Adams County needed me, Lakewood needed me, because they didn't have police officers, police women in these other counties, and certainly no Black police women. So they saw that they could use me. And for me, it was fun. Another assignment, something to do. But they didn't like it. The white police officers in my division did not like it. And I began to feel it. I didn't retire from the Denver Police Department. I resigned. I resigned because I had 2 children at home. And I did not want to get compromised, because my last assignment, the whole case file came up missing. And I was told that before it even came up missing, that my case wasn't going to go anywhere. No, they just had never been able to get the guy. So I resigned when the case came up missing, because I couldn't even get a transfer back. That part could have been corruption. It could have been racism. It could have been both. But there are excellent police officers on the department. There were then and there are now, because I had good support then from some officers, not all. And I'm sure that there are good officers now that support Black women, that support white women, that support Latinas. So I am just truly, truly honored today to receive the proclamation, the flag, the pole. It's been a long time coming, as my children said to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective Rae Beth McCall-Hunn. She also forgot to mention that she is an author. She wrote a book, The Final Straw. So I believe you can get it on
Amazon.
Amazon. I'm actually reading it right now. So be sure to get it. I tell you what, I'm excited to know of this woman. So our next speaker, you know, I would see this sergeant every now and then. And my first thought was, man, she's sharp. She had herself together. Tell you, she was the supervisor of the Executive Protection Unit, that unit that protects the mayor, and she soon became a close friend and confidant of former Mayor Wellington Webb and his wife, Emma Webb. And I tell you, I know the reasons why. I certainly can toss out a few words: integrity, courage, strength, intelligence. I think I might change my name to Tinnin-Whitney. I'm not sure. I want to be like all of these ladies here. I tell you that. So our next speaker, Sergeant Laura Tinnin-Whitney. Sergeant.
Good evening. Carla, you put a lot on that front porch. Okay, I want to say, first of all, to God be the glory. And it is with great honor and appreciation that I accept this award. I'd like to thank my family for their support throughout my entire career. And I would most definitely be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Hess for those wonderful brownies he made that I ate too, and I need to do about 2 miles walking now. But to the committee, the Trailblazing Committee, I'm sure it's a tough job. Every year that you do this, I want to say thank you. I appreciate everything that you do. Now, this lawsuit, it was not about me, but me wanting to give Blacks and other minorities in the community the opportunity to protect and serve the citizens of Denver. The department, I'm sure, has come a long way, but there is a long way to go yet. You must remain vigilant because the playing field and the goal line is always changing. In the words of Haile Selassie, and I'm quoting, "The preservation of peace and the guaranteeing of man's basic freedoms and rights require courage and eternal vigilance. Courage to speak and act, and if necessary, to suffer and die for truth and justice," unquote. Well done is better than well said. Only do what your heart tells you to do. People may not always tell you how they feel, but they will always show you. So please remain vigilant. I'm not staying here for any longer. Rae Beth has said a lot. We went through a lot. We had fun doing it. We were great partners. But I pray for the safety of your families, officers, chief, who also sacrifice much for the civil society that we live in. I want to say, may God bless you, be healthy, and stay safe. Thank you.
Congratulations, ladies, all of you.
For those lovely words. Tell you folks, these ladies went through a lot. I think our city went through a lot. I think our country went through a lot back during those times. So it begs the question, are we better now? I would hope so. I know that better reclassifying things, putting it in a bucket with everything else to minimize the glaring disparities, shucking and jiving, pandering, deflecting, distracting. But until we address the root causes of the issues, which is systemic racism and sexism, we would only have the illusion of inclusion. However, with the leadership that we have in place, I have faith in the righteousness of our cause. I do. So as we address inequities for women still in 2021, still, as we look at issues, especially surrounding Black women, who some may say are the most unprotected, neglected, disrespected people in the country, the question then becomes, how long? How long? How long until women are truly free from harassment in the workplace? How long? How long until women are truly free from violence in and out of the home? How long? How long are women truly put in a place of power and are truly valued and not tokenized? How long? How long until the cause for social justice doesn't end in a short-term project, a trend, or a hashtag? How long? How long until we can turn on the TV and not see a confrontation between police and communities of color that ends in tragedy? How long? How long until we celebrate the accomplishments and the efforts of Black America, of whom backs this nation was built upon for more than just a month, and the shortest month out of the year? How long? How long until there's a return to respect, civility, and humanity? How long? How long until we no longer have to fight the ugliness of racism, sexism, and classism? How long? How long? In the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in his 1963 speech, how long? And with the leadership that we have in place, and with the leadership that we have in this department, how long? Not long. How long? Not long. How long? Not long. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our program. Thank you so very much to our honorees, the Carole, Hogue, Wilkerson family, the McCall-Hunn family, the Tinnin-Whitney family. Thank you so very much. The Denver Police Museum, thank you so very much. Denver Police Department, our friends and family here, and they are family, the Blair Caldwell African American Research Library. Folks, please come by whenever we open back up to look at your history. Thank you so very much. And may God bless each and every one of you. And may God bless our great city of Denver. Thank you so very much.